The College Football Playoff Committee has a new model for making the college football playoff. My only question is, what in the heck took you so long?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We'll talk about Monarch Money in just a bit. I want to thank you every day for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. And this illustrious backdrop that I have is because I'm in the East meeting room at the condo at Orange Beach. I talked them into letting me use this. And there is zero decoration in here, which is fine. But just letting you know, I'm not getting my mugshot or anything. Jimmy, the College Football Playoff Committee finally said, okay, this whole thing about if, conference champs automatically get a bye, that's stupid, which is what everybody said to begin with. That's stupid. So now we're going to just be what you are, 1 through 12, which would have made this last playoff so much better, 100 times better, honestly. And so my only question is, are we going to keep having to jump through these tiny hoops of stupidity? Are they going to keep just having little things like, well, we got to make the conference championship mean something? Okay, hang on a second, guys. If we're going to this playoff model, I think we can also go ahead and take in that the conference championship just doesn't mean anything anymore. We wish it did. You and I wish it did. We wish it did because we don't like 16 teams playing for a championship. But if you're going to go to 16 teams, it is almost harmful to you to play in a conference championship rather than beneficial. I would rather go back to the old system of 1989? I think Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, and maybe LSU all won the SEC championship, and they all get credit for it. And I mean, maybe that's what we should go to.
Well, I think the SEC and the Big Ten have a different situation than everyone else, and I think the conference championship games in the SEC and the Big Ten are sort of different than all the others because in those two leagues, the two teams playing for a conference championship are going to be top 5 seeds, and they have bigger fish to fry, the top 2. But I think in other conferences where there's only going to be one team from the league getting a bid, most likely most years, like the ACC or Big 12 under the current format, when there's only one team that's going to get a bid, or in these smaller group of 5 leagues where the vast majority of them aren't even sniffing the playoff, I think the conference championship games mean a lot there. And again, it does mean a lot, I think, to win the SEC. However, like Luke said, the conference championship games have taken on a new meaning in the SEC and the Big Ten. When you're talking about teams that are going to be top 5 seeds that are hosting in the playoff, your main concern at that point in the conference championship game is don't get anybody hurt. I mean, if you win, great. But if you don't, just don't get anybody hurt because we have truly bigger games coming. That's not the same for all the conferences, but heck, this format that we got coming up this year is just a 1-year deal anyway. I mean, this is what we're doing for 1 year. The one thing that you could see coming like a freight train is that there was going to be an overreaction on a year-by-year basis to where, oh, we didn't like what happened last year, so we're going to change the whole format to better fit. No one knows what's going to happen next year. Who knows? Maybe next year the top 4 teams are actually one from the SEC, one from the Big Ten, one from the Big 12, and one from the ACC. Highly unlikely, but possible. Anything's possible the way a season can play out.
And I'm all for conference championships in theory. I really am. And the irony here is one of the reasons the Big 12 said they wanted to go to a conference championship game. If you remember, TCU and Baylor tied, and they were like, we're just not going to declare a champion. And the College Football Playoff Committee said, okay, then you get nobody in. We'll put Ohio State in. And then Ohio State went and won it, which is weird. But if they had just declared a champion, I think whether that had been TCU or Baylor, I think that team would have gotten in. And Ohio State would be left out, which is kind of funky. Well, now I would go the other way. That if TCU and Baylor were having a championship, I think it'd be better to say we're just calling them a tie. And then you have you're getting one and you might get two. Where if you have a championship game, you're probably only getting one, and that's the champion. And I just feel like we got to quit. If we're going to, I love tradition. College football is grounded in tradition. So I don't want to get rid of it. At the same time, if we're going to do all this movement, let's just make it move where when you try to meld things and say, okay, let's take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it usually doesn't work out right. You know what I can equate this to? Last year, I had somebody DM me, not last year. Let me screw that. I screwed that sentence up. The other day, I had somebody DM me about last year. And they were talking about how, hey, I'm not sure I have a lot of faith in DeBoer because of, the whole way the season went, 9-4, and Jalen Milroe, and we should have made a change, and this, that, and other. And I said, I think I can explain last year now, the more I think about it, that Kalen DeBoer didn't want to upset the apple cart too terribly much, and I get that. But see, when you don't want to upset the apple cart too much and you try to mix in a little bit of your stuff and a little bit of their stuff, what you get is a 9-4 season. I think now in hindsight, if we all would say, hey, I wish Kalen DeBoer had just come in and said, I'm going to do my thing as an open quarterback competition. Now, I don't think Ty Simpson would have beaten out Jalen Milroe, but he might have. And so what I'm saying is then it would be essentially Kalen DeBoer's team, no doubt. Whereas last year felt like it was Kalen DeBoer's team, but also Jalen Milroe's a little bit, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it led to some confusion. I want there to be no confusion. Under Nick Saban's regime, there was no confusion 99% of the time. The one time there was, his first year in 2007, he was trying to figure out, okay, things like, how do I punish DJ Hall here? Well, I'll keep him out of the game. We need him to win this game. I'll play him, which only made things worse. So what I'm saying is have a plan and say we're gonna revamp the way we crown a college football champion. And we're not going to do this, if Boise State wins their conference, we're going to give them a bye because that is borderline challenged. That's just stupid. And I think everybody knew it, but we still did it, and it was dumb. And so I'm thankful we're correcting it, but it never should have happened to begin with.
Maybe not. Had they done the straight seeding a year ago, the tournament would have turned out much differently and maybe even more exciting for the fans. And of course, I think the biggest problem, period, wasn't necessarily the seedings of the byes. It was inviting teams like Indiana and SMU who didn't have the strength of schedule. I don't think there had been enough evidence to prove they were, two of the 12 best teams. I feel like that was a bigger error than how they seeded or bye. But hey, this is just a one-year deal. I mean, after this year, they're doing something completely different. They have to show the confusion that Luke's referring to. They haven't even decided what 2026 is going to look. They don't even know how many teams. I mean, I think they have a pretty good idea, but the 2026 format hasn't even been decided. There's nothing to tweak because they haven't even built it yet. So we'll see. But here's an easy prediction. They'll do something for 2026, and then the 2026 season will play out, and then they'll tweak it again because they'll say, hey, this didn't look right, and they'll tweak whatever because there's never an emphatic statement that needs to be made from the top is, hey, seasons play out funny. It's not uniform. They don't play out the same way every year. We can't just anticipate the results. We have to play it out and see what happens, but you can't just tweak it every year based on, the odd result. But overall, I'm just excited that we're getting pretty close to another football season because in the end, what makes a sport great is the games themselves, and we'll be seeing them soon enough.
Let me just, I know most people have probably seen this, but I do want to say what the games would have been had they done this particular way of ranking, which is the correct way last year. It would have been number 5 Notre Dame playing Clemson versus Notre Dame, who played Indiana, and that game just stunk. Okay. By the way, this doesn't fix the major problem you and I both had that, hey, Indiana and SMU probably didn't need to be in there anyway. Well, we all put them in because we felt sorry for them. And some people have this David complex where we have to get the little guy in there. Indiana was just not that good. Neither was SMU. Okay. But number 6, Ohio State would have hosted Arizona State. That's a much more fun matchup. That's a pretty cool matchup in that, first of all, it was dumb that Arizona State got a bye, and Arizona State deserved to have to probably go somewhere. That's probably what they deserve to do. And Ohio State deserved to be in the first round and to be in the initial first round too.
Look at Arizona State. Instead of getting a bye in the first round, they have to play at Ohio State.
But that's much more reasonable, right?
It's much more in line with what should have happened. But boy, what a difference.
Yeah, it is a difference. And then number 10, SMU would have gone to Tennessee. And instead of having the first round game of Tennessee traveling to Ohio State, which was stupid. Now,
Tennessee hosts the game they would have won.
Well, we both know now that Tennessee wasn't very good either, apparently, or at least they weren't on Ohio State's level.
Yeah, they weren't Ohio State.
At least this first round game would have been worth watching,
Yeah. I think Tennessee would have won. Boy, what would Nico have cost then if they'd actually won one of those playoff games?
Oh my God! I mean, how the trajectory of Tennessee history would be. Okay, and then you would have Boise State playing Indiana in the first round, with the winner moving on to play Oregon. And this is one of those situations where nobody's happy, so everybody's happy to me, because I look at it like I don't want Boise and Indiana in there anyway. I just don't think they're good enough. But if we're going to put them in, let's make them play each other. And then let's give them the hardest path, because they both had just breezy schedules. So then they play each other. One of them's out, which makes me happy. One of them moves on, which makes the people with the David complex happy. And then they play Oregon, who probably demolishes them. And Oregon, instead of losing in their first round game, which was actually the second round, because they had to play Ohio freaking State, they get a decent yet very beatable team to play in the second round, which they earned.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I probably would have Boise in. Boise, who I think would have beaten Indiana. Boise played Oregon pretty tough, during the regular season. Now, Oregon really improved after that point. And I think by the time postseason rolled around, Oregon probably handles Boise fairly easily. But, again, I just object to Indiana and SMU being in. That's the thing they need to tweak is the selection process. But
Boise was going to get in. My point is, in my perfect world, Boise isn't in. We don't have to let them in.
I think they were unique. They were a unique group of 5 team. I think we're going to see a bigger problem of that this year. I don't see a group of 5 team to me that might literally be one of the 12 best teams. Boise may have been a year ago, and they certainly proved that by playing Oregon tough, in one of their big games. But I think Boise we're going to find is a unique group of 5 team last year. Boise at South Florida in week 1 this year, I won't be shocked to see the Bulls win that game. Boise lost a lot of guys off that team from a year ago.
Let's talk a little Monarch money. What do you say? Because Monarch money is awesome. Look, have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, hey, where'd all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all accounts, investments, and spending in one place so that you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. That's Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year at monarchmoney.com. Jimmy, I did want to throw this in. This is a late throw into our itinerary today. CBS came up with their top 25 coaches as ranked by them. It'd be weird if they were ranked by NBC and CBS put them out. But, they put them out, and they had some interesting choices, if you ask me. But the most notable of which is our own Kalen DeBoer at number 9. And here's what they had to say about Kalen DeBoer at number 9. Nobody envies the spot DeBoer was put in last season. Well, okay. Plenty of coaches probably wish they could coach at Alabama, but they don't want to be the coach who replaces Nick Saban. Very fair. At the same time, way off. Having him at number 9 is especially when the other 8 guys ahead of him. You tell me what these guys have in common. As soon as if I can ever find where the top 25 power coaches are again, I'm gonna post it. Here we go. I found it right here. So here's number 1, Kirby Smart. I don't have a problem with that. That's fair. Ryan Day at 2. Again, I find that to be fair. Dabo Swinney at 3. Okay, I can buy it. Steve Sarkisian at 4. So we're 100% sure that Steve Sarkisian is better than Kalen DeBoer, even though the one time they met head-to-head, DeBoer beat him. Dan Lanning at 5. Again, Kalen DeBoer kind of was famous for owning Dan Lanning, was he not? Marcus Freeman at 6. Well, he's getting the Notre Dame bump, so okay. James Franklin at 7, who hasn't beaten anybody he shouldn't beat yet. And Brian Kelly at 8. You mean Brian Kelly, the one that just got housed in his own house by Kalen DeBoer last year? That Brian Kelly? Okay. I also want to finish up with what they said because I think they give a silent nod to Locked on Bama. He also said on Kalen DeBoer, all things considered, it went well enough for DeBoer. There were bumps along the way. In parentheses, it says, as well as some hilarious discussion of how DeBoer dresses on game days. But the Tide were still in the hunt for a playoff spot, which is the expectation every season. First of all, I think they were talking about us when they talked about the dress stuff. I don't know. We're going to pretend like they were talking about us. But do you think he's the 9th best coach? I mean,
he's very difficult. I think he's extremely difficult to rank because there's such a small sample size for him. I mean, it depends. I would never rank him as low as 9 if we're taking into account what he accomplished at Sioux Falls. But are we taking that into account or are we ignoring it? If we're ignoring what he did at Sioux Falls, which is fine because it's such a low level of football, if you're like, no, we're not going to count any of that. Well, then you're only counting his 2 years at Fresno, his 2 years at Washington, and 1 year at Alabama. I think that sample size is very small compared to other coaches on that list. And I think that's what makes it very difficult to rank Kalen DeBoer. I would also say once you get past those top 3, who would definitely be my top 3 right now, I'm a bottom line guy when it comes to these type rankings. I want to start with national championships and conference championships. To me, I would start there. I think everything else is subjective. If you're just like, no, we're not going to take into account championships, then you're going to rank, I don't know, the coach at Kansas, Lance Leipold, really high. Look what he's done at Kansas. Well, I want to judge based on championships. So I think once you get past those 3 who are national championship winning coaches, gosh, it gets really tough because there aren't championships there. But I don't know. I think with DeBoer, it's complicated to rank him based on, are you counting Sioux Falls or not? If you're counting Sioux Falls, maybe he should be top 5. If you're not counting Sioux Falls at all, I could even buy him being lower than 9 based on he's only done this for 5 years.
Help me out here. It just dawned on me. I think there are only 3 coaches in college football who've won a national championship that are currently coaching.
I think that's correct.
Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, and Dabo Swinney.
Yep.
And I was trying to go back with, LSU in 19 was Ed Orgeron. Michigan, of course, was Coach Kaki.
Yeah. Urban Meyer before that.
Florida State was Jimbo Fisher.
That's right.
Yeah, it is. And then the rest of them are like Nick Saban, and that's it.
It just goes to show how difficult it is to win a national championship. Yeah. There's only 3 active coaches who have done it. Now Kirby's done it multiple times. Dabo's done it multiple times. So they would be my top 3 because of that. I mean, and again, people might object to that and say, yeah, but look how bad Dabo's been. First of all, Clemson hasn't been bad. And secondly, Clemson's not dead. As a matter of fact, they're preseason number 1 in some places, and I think have a pretty decent case to state for it. I don't think Clemson's dead. I fully expect Clemson to be in the playoff this upcoming fall and making some level of noise in the playoff. But I don't think they'll win the national championship.
Yeah, 100%. All right, when we come back, we're going to do your roster rankings. We got 2 more guys to go, and these should be quick, and then we can get into some more pronunciations of our team names, which we're going to love. In fact, one of the guys on our ranking both the guys may be qualify for your pronunciation rankings. All right, Jimmy, we are up to number 68 or 9? 68, okay.
68 is Alex, and yes, he made the pronunciation special the first time around. Alex Asparuhoff. We learned how to say that in the last pronunciation. Alex Asparuhoff.
It sounds like somebody, like you come into the hospital and they're like, what happened? Somebody kicked me right in my Asparuhoff.
Sounds a little bit like a sneeze to me, like Alex Asparuhoff.
Asparuhoff.
God bless you. But anyway, difficult last name for sure. The reason we have him down here, look, that's too low to rank the starting punter. If he's the starting punter, I probably have him too low at 68, because when you're the starting punter, you're on the field a lot and you are contributing to whether you win or lose the game that day. It's that important. But we don't know that he's going to be the starting punter for a couple reasons. Number one, he's a true freshman. Number two, he's coming off a serious injury. He missed the entirety of the spring. He's going to compete primarily with Blake Dowd, the walk-on from the Colorado School of Mines, for the starting spot. Most people believe Asparuhoff is going to win the job. My feeling is if he does, I don't anticipate punting being a strength of this team. Hopefully Alabama punts very little this fall anyway. I don't anticipate it being a strength, but my hope is if Asparuhoff wins the job, it works a little bit like James Burnip, who was not good at all in year one because he was kind of learning on the job as to how to do this. So will Asparuhoff, being a true freshman coming off a major injury. But we all know once Burnip got past that kind of mulligan year, he was really good. And I think that's kind of what we have coming up with Asparuhoff. Might not be perfect in 2025. Probably going to look pretty good down the road. Next dude at number 67, as we are as of today, 67 days away from the start of fall camp, Joseph Ionata. And yeah, we'll discuss him again in just a moment. But Joe Ionata, we have been pronouncing that correctly the whole time. It's one of the few. He's going to be listed as the number 2 center on a lot of depth charts you see this fall. Number 1, Parker Brailsford, number 2 center, Joe Ionata. Don't really be fooled by that, because I think if something happened to Brailsford, the new center would be Gino Vandermark, who they would move over from guard. So he's not really the second center, but he is going to make second team center on a lot of these depth charts. And we're going to see a lot of him. Now, one thing about Ionata, even though we have him down here at 67 and saying, well, he's not really the backup center, Brailsford may go pro early. Gino Vandermark's a senior. Ionata could possibly be the starting center on this team in 2026. I mean, that's not far off. So he could be a hugely significant player at Alabama. I just think this fall we're going to see him really garbage time center, because they're not going to put Vandermark in at garbage time. I don't think Vandermark's going to be playing guard or be the number 1 backup guard. He's either going to start at guard or be the number 1 backup. But those are the two today. Still down here at 67 and 68, Joseph Ionata at 67, Alex Asparuhoff at 68. I think you're muted or at the beach.
Yes.
If you're at the beach, we shouldn't expect to hear you because the waves are loud.
I was muting the background. Somebody like shaking, like beating the wall of this place with the sand in their shoes, like trying to get. So I had to put it on mute.
This week they caught a 600-pound bull shark just 2 miles off the beach. By the way.
Oh my God.
2 miles off the beach. Well, 3 miles off the beach. A 600. I didn't know they got that big. I mean, heck, I didn't know bull sharks got that big. As a matter of fact, this would have been the state record, but it was caught by a commercial fisherman guy, so it can't count. But it would have beat the state record by 50 pounds.
What do they do with it? Did they put it back?
No. It was killed. I assume it's going to be eaten, which is
you eat bull shark.
I think you can eat them. Yeah,
I think that's bull shark.
There's some.
All right. So, do you think Joe has ever been told, like a coach has said, "Hey, Joe, get in there, play guard," and he goes, "I'm a center. I'm not a guard." I'm sorry, that was my dad joke for the day. I got like 4 girls under 9 here.
Oof. Joe Ionata does kick off today's pronunciation guy, by the way. And that's one we've been getting right, but not everybody out there says the name out loud, and that does look like a difficult name. So people ought to know with that spelling, Ionata. It is Joe Ionata.
Joe Ionut. All right, who's next on the pronunciation game? I love
This
this.
one, I've heard people get it wrong. Most people get this right, and we've got
Wait a
it
minute,
right here.
spell it and then let me say it, and let's see how close I am.
Okay, let's do Dashawn Jones.
Deshaun Jones?
He actually goes by Dashawn Jones.
I knew you were going to trip me up with that.
He goes Dashawn Jones. I initially called him Deshaun Jones myself, but his nickname on the team is kind of the giveaway. They call him Day Day on the team. That's what everybody calls him around the football building. That's how I picked up on that. Going to practice with BOL and the media crew, you hear the players on the team call him Day Day, and I'm like, oh, you must pronounce it Dashawn. And yeah, that is the case. Dashawn Jones. I'm about to blow you away with this next one.
I can't wait.
Boy, we've been getting this wrong. So has everyone out there. I've never heard his name pronounced correctly until
spell it. Let me take my shot.
Dijon Lee.
Dijon. That's what we've been saying. Dijon?
We are wrong.
Dijon?
Dijon.
So really, the I should be a high comma. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be.
And here's the thing. Why I said Dijon, first of all, I've never heard anybody refer to him as anything but Dijon. His nickname is Mustard. His nickname's Mustard. I mean, they call him that. So I'm like, so of course it's pronounced Dijon. That's why they nicknamed the kid Mustard, and that's why everybody calls him that. But nope, per Alabama, and by the way, I'm getting this from the University of Alabama, Dijon Lee. It's going to be hard for us to stop using Dijon because we've been saying that for so long, but it's Dijon Lee.
Do you think, I wonder, it'd be a good story, like maybe there was a misprint on his birth certificate or something that maybe it should have been a comma up there. I mean, honestly, because Jimmy, these things are weird. I told you the story about my dad was going to take this guy to Brazil with the whole bunch of them, and the guy was going to help people out, and and they were like, we're going to pay for you to come to Brazil to be there and during Carnival. And everything was great. They were getting him his passport. The guy had never been out of Tallapoosa County before. He was going to go to Brazil. It was going to be awesome. And they got his birth certificate, and on his birth certificate, he was listed as female. He is not a female. Dad was like, I don't know if I need to just take you to the airport and you drop your pants. I don't know what to do, but you were clearly a male, and he's always been a male, but his birth certificate was screwed up, and nobody ever thought to look at it because he had never gone anywhere. So it didn't matter. And so they had, luckily, a state senator at the time was going with them on this trip, and they were able to get it unscrambled. But it took an act of Congress, literally, to get it unscrambled. So what I'm saying is, if you have a misprint on your birth certificate, I think it's a real problem. So I'm wondering, I mean, that's not crazy to think, but it also could just be that the parents are like, no, this is how we pronounce Dijon, which is fine too. I don't care because he's awesome.
He is, but yeah, it's going to take some training for us to go to Dijon after saying.
My eyes won't let me pronounce it like that until my mouth's going to have to overrule my eyes. You know what I mean?
Let's do two easy ones before getting to the hard one at the end. Two easy ones, and I say
easy. These already.
We've been getting these right. But everybody should just know, Yanze Pierre. That is correct. That is the correct way. It's the correct way. Yanze Pierre. We've been getting that right. I think that's one people generally get right, even though that's.
Do they call him Zay, or do they call him Jan, or do they just go Yanze?
I don't know.
Because no football player just goes by their name. Everybody's got
a nickname, and sometimes it can be not related to their name. But I don't know. I'll look into that. Another one we've been getting right, but I hear people get this wrong. That's why I included it. I've heard people get it wrong. Jordan Renaud. We've been getting that right the whole time. I've heard people say it differently than that, but that is Jordan, number 11 this year. Was number 90. He's changed to 11. Jordan Renaud is the correct way to say it. But now we'll end with two good ones. One we referred to last time, I believe, and we heard about that. We might be wrong. Mbakwe. Let's say it again. We've been saying Mbakwe forever. It's
Mbakwe.
Yep.
You've already done this one.
I know, but I bring it up again. Somebody, a listener to the show brought up, like, I think Mbakwe himself says it Mbakwe. Maybe he does. I'm just going by what The University of Alabama says this is how you pronounce his name. That's what Alabama says. I'm going to go by what Alabama's saying. And Bach, if you're listening, if you prefer Mbakwe, probably because everybody out there says Mbakwe, that's fine. But University says it's Mbakwe.
Who was that recently, Jimmy, who came out and said, y'all been pronouncing it wrong this whole time, but it was somebody on Alabama's team.
Marcel Darius did that.
Yeah, but I think it was
Darius said it's Darius.
It was more new than that. It was more new than that. I can't remember who it is.
I do know a national player that wasn't at Alabama, some NFL guy.
Maybe it wasn't Alabama. I thought it was Alabama. But somebody did that like at the draft. They were like, we can't believe he got drafted. That's great. That's great. Well, so what do you think? He goes, well, first of all, my name is actually blank. Like, okay. Well,
we will end with one that probably, the whole show has been waiting for this one, because I really didn't know until I went to the source.
Is it Hollywood?
Steve from Canada. Steve from Canada. Mboumou.
The spelling helps me none.
It shouldn't, but it's easier, much easier than I thought.
Mbamua?
Nope. Easier than that. Steve Boomwa. Boomwa.
Boomwa.
Boomwa. That's how he says it. Steve, and he goes, his middle name, I guess, I'm not really sure how it works in French Canada. Bolo. He usually includes Bolo. Steve Bolo, B-O-L-O. Steve Bolo Boomwa. B-O-O, like boom, wah. And that's one I think I'll get right, because I was so unsure how to pronounce that from the beginning that I sort of stayed away from it. So I haven't gotten it wrong too many times because I hadn't even tried it. But Boomwa it is. Steve.
It feels like
Boomwa.
if you've seen his name, it starts with an M. His last
starts with an M, just like Mbakwe.
And so it feels like his last name is a jumble, and you have to unscramble it to say it right.
That's kind of how that one worked. Yeah. And of course, he literally is French Canadian. Speaks French. Only guy I've ever heard commit to Alabama in French. His commitment video.
That is so awesome. Well, what that tells you, you can't know two languages and not be smart.
God, as someone who doesn't know two languages, I agree. Learning another language is tough. They got a different word for everything.
Yeah, most everything. Yeah. I mean, we Americans, we love to take some words and sort of Americanize them every now and again, which is kind of cool. But I'm here with my daughter and my wife and another couple and their two daughters and a friend, right, who's also 9. We found out last night this 9-year-old that's with us, that's a friend. I didn't know her at all this trip. She also knows Mandarin Chinese and can write it. And I was like, oh God, I've wasted my life. I mean, I'm 52 and I couldn't do any of that. I mean, if I started to take Mandarin Chinese, I would disappoint the entire culture. I don't know any of it.
Yeah, everybody listening to the show's like, gosh, I wish that 9-year-old hosted the show instead of these two 9-year-olds.
In Mandarin.
Can we have the smarter 9-year-old than these two?
I should get her on just to count to 10 in Mandarin. She counted to 10 last night in Mandarin, and we were all just sitting there with our jaws on the floor. And then I was like, but y'all know she knows we can't check her, right? Like, if she's wrong, we can't tell.
Yeah, my cousin that lives in New York speaks Mandarin, and she's like, my age or close to it. And she speaks Mandarin, and I've always been impressed by that. And now I can no longer be impressed. I'm like, I tell my cousin, well, you're not 9.
Yeah, this girl was actually born in China. She's not Chinese. Her dad and mom were living in China time for some financial thing he does, and they moved around a little bit. But she didn't spend a lot of time in China, and so she has somebody come and teach her Mandarin once a week. That's bananas, man. She's gonna blow everybody out of the water. I mean, tell her it's Mbakwe. And Boomwa.
And it's Boomwa, and it's DeJohn Lee. See, you'll be teaching her something.
All right, because it's Labor Day weekend, I'm going to tell one more quick story. My wife and I one time went on one of those eating tours of New York.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we go to all these different restaurants, and they have one little a tapa kind of thing for you, right? And you eat it, and all these things. It was an Italian thing. and they had all these funky names, and I don't know Italian, obviously, and I was trying so hard to intently listen so that I could impress people later. And the woman was telling us about it. Well, I can't hear worth a dang. And I was sitting at my table like this, and she was talking, and she would talk like this, and then she'd look over like that. And so, when she go, it echoed that way, and I couldn't hear it. And then she said, so if they put something in front of us, I didn't even look down to see what it was because I was trying to listen to her. And she said, now we have this, and it's meatballs. And I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up. What did you say this is again? She said, meatball. And everybody fell out. Yeah, I was like, oh God. I mean, that
ends up you do know an Italian word. Ends up you do know an Italian word.
I learned a lesson. Never try. All right, that's going to do it. Hey, I hope everybody has a happy Memorial Day weekend. Did I say Labor Day earlier? It doesn't matter. Memorial Day weekend. And we'll be back tomorrow at some point. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.